When asked about the brutality and grim nature of his film Come and See, the director Elem Klimov responded, "Had I included everything I knew and shown the whole truth, even I could not have watched it." Klimov did not depend exclusively on third-party accounts to create the incomparable mood of his war story set in Nazi-occupied Belarus. Klimov had seen the darkness of the Second World War firsthand. Born in the city of Stalingrad, Klimov and his family were forced to flee what would become the bloodiest battleground on the Eastern Front by crossing the Volga River, which was engulfed in flames that had been caused by the emptying of an oil depot destroyed by the German army. You could say that he was born to direct a movie like Come and See, a story that takes its title from John's description of the apocalypse in the book of Revelation. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. There are few events in history, if any, more worthy to be compared with hell than the Nazi occupation of Eastern Europe. But Come and See was not the title that Elem Klimov initially had in mind. The title that he had first picked out was Kill Hitler. The title Come and See emphasizes the theme that Klimov's masterpiece has become most famous for, the seemingly infinite capacity of humans to inflict suffering on other humans. But the Kill Hitler title points to a different theme that is equally important, a theme that can only be proposed once Florya has fully experienced the wickedness humans are capable of. To get there ourselves, a bit of digging is necessary, so we'll start where our main character starts, on a beach with a face unscarred by the experience of war. Come and See from the very offset unsettles the audience in a number of unique ways. Florya's companion on the beach is a strange character to say the least. With a croaking, strained voice, he deflects the warnings shouted at Florya by the old man. This little boy already has the cynicism of the men that will come and take Florya away from his family. Once Florya finally takes hold of a rifle under the sand, almost like he's pulling it from the underworld itself, the boy drops the voice and challenges Florya by asking, Florya endures a lot of pain to pull the rifle free. Again, it's a very uncomfortable viewing. And his effort is spurred on by this boy who's quite a bit younger than he is. It reminds me of the stories in Greek mythology where Venus sends Cupid to cause mischief. Florya's friend feels like an agent of war itself, determined to get more and more people into the fray. At the very least, this early interaction shows how childhood has already been transformed by the conflict unraveling around the two boys. The opening also establishes a key feature of the film's mood. There is no escape. The man on the beach declares that there is no hiding now, the Germans will leave no stone unturned. But even beyond physical reality, Klimov cuts Florya off from hope of divine relief. When he initially pulls a German belt out from the sand, it reads, "God with us." And when he looks to the sky, all he ever sees is a seemingly ever-present spy plane. In a more recent childhood war film, Beasts of No Nation, the main character is in continuous dialogue with God. He can feel his presence above him, judging his own actions and the actions of others. But in Come and See, the Nazis will isolate Florya completely. No family, no friends, no God. He'll be left with only himself and his rifle. Florya leaves his family unceremoniously. If you've seen All Quiet on the Western Front, you'll find his naive, youthful smile familiar. This is a boy who has a picture in his mind about what war is, the glory of conquest and patriotism. His mother's face reflects the truth of what her son will find. No glory, just suffering and loneliness. Once Florya arrives at camp, his fantasies about war crumble. What's incredible about Come and See is how these fantasies are not brought down by graphic depictions of injury or death. They're brought down by human faces. We don't need to see the inside of the medical tent. All we need to see is the face of Glasha, a nurse volunteering for the partisans. Her eyes reveal what's inside, and they're enough to frighten the new recruit. I can't think of another movie that depends so much on the human face to tell its story. And after completing Come and See, it's the faces that you remember most. For example, we get an interesting scene where Florya is cleaning a cauldron, and then Glasha walks over and drops some flowers on his head. That's it. That's all that happens. But the emotional weight of this image is unbelievable. You can feel his smallness and vulnerability. and the transformation of our characters will primarily be reflected through the face. Out of pity, Flora is left behind by the Commander Cossack, but finds companionship with the heartbroken Glasha. Their emotional back and forth is quickly interrupted by the Nazi war machine, whose ambush permanently damages Florya's hearing. The audio of the movie itself also changes to immerse the audience in his world, which is pretty cool. Now, after the attack, we get what is, for me, the most memorable sequence of Come and See. Both characters have just narrowly escaped death. We see their fear, pain, exhaustion. But the following day, they try to enjoy themselves with childlike frolicking in the rain. Some people see this as the final interruption of peace before Florya returns to find an empty home, but there's an eerie mood hanging over these playful moments. To me, these games are a defense mechanism more than they are organic spur-of-the-moment fun. I think they remove themselves from the reality of their situation in an almost psychotic way. Once Florya returns to the village, he does the same thing again. The entire area is lifeless. The only noise left comes from flies. His sister's dolls have been left on the floor of his home. He knows what happened, but can't accept it. So he pretends that his mother's stew is still fresh when it's rotten. He pretends that his family is safe when their corpses are piled up behind a home. His mind will do whatever it takes to avoid the pain. Unfortunately for Glasha, she looks back as they run away in Sodom and Gomorrah-like fashion to see an image that will be forever frozen in her mind. The following swamp sequence, which I cannot believe the actors actually agreed to do. I mean, they gave everything for this film. But the scene is perfect because it's almost a microcosm of the entire story. Flora fights his way through pure filth and dirt, suffering for every inch forward. His life has become a swamp trying to pull him under, body and soul. After Glasha and Florya rise from their anti-baptism, the story takes a big turn. Florya tries to kill himself because of the crushing weight of guilt, only to be pulled out by Glasha. But the new Florya can't stay with her. He's broken and doesn't believe he can protect anyone anymore. So his hair is cut, and he goes to fight once again with a face that's lost all marks of childhood innocence. After his family is killed, the presence of Adolf Hitler becomes more pronounced. The partisan leaders describe early in the film how Hitler wants to turn your family into slaves, but after experiencing direct loss at the hands of the Nazis, Florya's hatred begins to show. When a man makes a parody figure of Hitler, he tries to spit on it like the others, but he's too dehydrated. His interactions with the Nazi war machine become more and more direct as his journey continues. First, a couple men in his foraging team are blown up by landmines, then the leader of the mission is killed by machine gun fire in an absolutely stunning scene. The cow that they take becomes a symbol of hope. His family may have perished, but this cow can save a number of starving people. It's a chance at redemption and refreshment. But almost out of thin air, the Nazis take it away from him. And the cow's slow, groaning death sends Florya down another circle of hell. About an hour and a half into Come and See, we meet the perpetrators face to face. The way they emerge out of the fog adds to this feeling of omnipresence, which is established by the owl. Whenever Florya thinks his circumstances can't get any worse, they just emerge. Now, the atrocities of the Nazis have been explored thoroughly in film, but there are images during the massacre sequence in Come and See that are uniquely striking, if not genius. I mean, I have no clue how someone actually came up with these ideas. Florya escapes from the barn and we get devastating shots of him being forced to watch death, destruction, and rape with a totally transformed face. But in between the violence and Florya's reaction to it are shots like this. A little furry, innocent creature clinging to the man in charge of the extermination. And then there's a shot of an SS woman eating a crawfish. These images are so bizarre, but unforgettable, and they fully communicate how morally disconnected these people are. As the SS officer coldly explains to the partisans later on, some nations don't deserve to exist, our mission is to eradicate your future completely, and that's just how it is. There's no need to skip lunch or leave your pet at home because we're just conducting an audit essentially. After witnessing the gleeful murder of men, women, and children, there is nothing left of Florya. The Nazis leave his body alive, but they've burnt down everything else. He's reached the very bottom of the abyss. So after the partisans strike back off-screen and there is no cinematic battle scene by design, Florya will finally have the chance to release his hatred. He fetches gasoline so that one of the Germans can burn his fellow soldiers, but one of the other partisans opens fire before the eye for an eye justice can be seen through. Florya's consolation is a poster of Hitler, which was paraded in the village before the atrocities took place. The poster reads, "Hitler the Liberator." It's at this propaganda that Florya fires his rifle for the very first time in the movie. This is the man who started it all, so who better to receive the bullets? But as each shot is fired, something very interesting happens. Hitler's life is played from end to beginning. We see him award members of the Hitler Youth about a month before his death, and then it's all backwards through the destruction of World War II, Hitler's rise in German politics, the decadence of Berlin in the 1920s, World War I, which he fought in, and Florya has no problem firing at all of these images. But then we reach the very beginning. Just a baby in his mother's arms, pure innocence. Just like the pure innocence that was burned in the village. And Florya stops. Even after imagining the village again, he lowers his rifle and tears begin to flow. Hitler's army killed the boy in Florya. The man that takes his place refuses to do the same. And he refuses to do the same because he realizes that the worst thing that evil people can do to you is turn you into them. Despite his own feelings of guilt, Florya could not have saved his family, and he couldn't have saved the town either. All of the atrocities he endured were unavoidable. The only thing he has control over is the type of person he will be in the aftermath. He can be like Hitler, or he can kill the Hitler in himself. He chooses the latter, and it's as hopeful an ending as can be imagined for a film like Come and See, or as Klimov wanted it to be called, Kill Hitler. This is one of the densest movies I've ever watched. There were so many scenes and moments I couldn't touch on, but if you've seen Come and See and there was a particular moment that stuck with you, make sure to leave it in the comments section, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more like it in the future. Have a fantastic rest of your day, guys. We'll talk to you soon.